It is Tuesday, September 10th here at the West End Gun Club. Out here at the upper part of the range this morning. It's 6:30. Just came out on my day off from work to do a little bit more of load testing and scope re-zeroing or just fine-tuning on two rifles here. I got my NRL Hunter build with the new Zico ZC420 that you saw in the last range vlog. Got my 22 GT behind me. Mainly just fine-tuning this scope and then still testing out loads with new primers, because I am probably going to switch to Federal gold medal match primers simply because they're easier to get right now. Oh, I'll say that, yeah, they're easier to get and they are less expensive than my traditional CCI BR4s, which I've used for a long time. Been using those for almost 20 years now for kind of match grade ammo. And I fired off a few rounds, just letting the barrel cool a little bit. This is a clean cold bore, or clean bore for sure. Cleaned it out and tried to get out any sort of carbon ring that may be in the chamber. It's a little smoky out here today. There are literally 5 or 6 forest fires or brush fires in Southern California right now. There's a huge one in San Bernardino County, like on the far end of San Bernardino, like the east end, northeast. San Bernardino County is huge, just so if you guys don't understand. But there's a 20,000 acre fire, like literally 20,000 acres plus. It's like raging. And then there's a new fire out in the San Gabriel Mountains, which is to the west of us. There's a fire. There's 2 or 3 fires south of us. It's nuts. So everything's pretty far, so it's not a danger to the range, but it's just the smoke. It just, right now, Southern California, the air quality is pretty bad. So we probably don't want to be out here too long. Granted, we're not doing very stressful outdoor activities, just shooting here, but probably only breathing this too much. But I'm going to go ahead and get some more rounds down range, and it's going to be a very boring range vlog per se in terms of just shooting. Anyway, let's go ahead and get more rounds down range so we can get out of here. So I fired 5 rounds of a slightly downloaded version of my load that I was using earlier this season. 144 grain LRHTs, burgers, of course. H4831SC, but 42 grains, not 42.2. Alpha brass, once fired, and now we are shooting with Federal gold medal match primers. First shot was about 30 something seconds slower than the rest, but that's because it was a cold bore, or sorry, clean cold bore rather. But we'll go ahead and try to get 5 more rounds down range just to see what the velocities look like in the SDs. I'm going to go ahead and come up with 10th, even though it's going to ruin the group. Nice. The cool thing with the Garmin and having the app is that it really streams that data to your phone pretty quickly. And like, I just opened the app, it's already there. I'm going to exclude that first shot from the group because I said the SDs are 10.7, extreme spread of 40. But if I exclude the first shot, which is a clean cold bore, the SDs drop to 4.2. So we're talking, my first shot of the morning on a clean cold bore was 2648.7 feet per second. And the average for the whole 9-shot group is 2681. So that 30-something foot per second difference was enough to throw off the entire data set. So I think Federal gold medal match primers might be good, or it should be pretty good. And we should be fine here. As far as my data, 2680 feet per second should be fine. I think I was pushing like 2700 with 42.2. And I think we should be fine. I think this should be, assuming the weather right now, it's 70 degrees on the Kestrel. We might be talking, maybe I'll lose 15 feet per second in 50-degree weather, 40-degree weather. So we should be well over power factor. So I think it's going to be fine load to just download. And the reason I wanted to download is because 42.2 is kind of close to max, if not max. So I just want to dial it down a little bit, just to stay under for the pressure and whatnot. So we'll let this cool down. I'm going to switch to 22 GT. I received this last week, and I haven't even opened the box. This is a Grey Ops 6 GT AW mag. I thought it looked pretty cool. It's a billet mag. I figured, hey, let's try it out since I am shooting a GT cartridge. And this is literally an unboxing here. And wow, it's wedged in there pretty tight. And we have an AW mag, and it looks like it's a little bit taller than a standard AW mag. It's a 10-rounder. That what makes sense here is that this is actually a 12-round body, but they limited it to 10 rounds for California, of course. And so that explains why it's longer. So there's a little notch there, 10 round and 12 round, as far as indicator where your rounds are. So that's why it's a little taller. But anyway, thought this looked pretty cool. We'll see how this runs. You got a plastic follower billet mag as far as the aluminum there. It's a nice finish here. What do I have loaded here? So I have H4831 shortcut, and this is 88.5 LRHTs with alpha brass and CCR BR4 primers, I believe. Am I running CCR BR? Yeah, I'm running CCR BR4s. So let's do 37.5 to see where we're at here as far as velocities. And I'm not sure if you saw in one of my previous vlogs, but I'm 98% sure I blew up a round in flight, heading out to before 100 yards. Probably because the twist is too fast, I don't know, but we'll see. And those who are wondering what an AW mag is, it's a double stack. So unlike an AICS mag, this is actually double stack, so you can load it like an AR where you just push it over the top, unlike holding it down and push feeding it, slipping the rounds underneath the feed lips like an AI mag. That's how you load an AW mag. And it is slightly longer, so you can't just throw an AW mag in any gun that can hold AICS. You're not only does your action need to support it, but also your chassis needs to be set up for it as far as the magazine well and the how should I say, the magazine well and the magazine catch. Starts walking up on that one, but we'll see how this is. 9.7 SD, not bad. I wanted to mention one thing that I saw last night. There was a Reddit post where someone posted a video of I guess he's a relatively large YouTuber. He's got 300,000 something subscribers. And I think I've seen a few of his videos in my feeds or whatever on occasion. But he had a video, or has a video they released a few like last week or something, saying that the Arken EP5, which is Arken Optics, is a manufacturer of very budget scopes, right? They're pretty lower end. And he was saying that the EP5 is just as good as his Nightforce. He can't tell the difference. Those were his words. He cannot tell the difference between his Nightforce and the EP5 as far as glass quality and whatnot. And I watched the video, and I can understand the mentality, but where he's coming from. However, it gets to the extreme about how he's saying that Nightforce is totally not worth it, etc. And then if you read all the comments on that video, everyone's like, yeah, you don't need to buy an expensive scope. You know, $400 scope can kill, you know, these $3,000, $4,000 scopes. There's no reason to buy those expensive scopes. And, you know, that sort of mob mentality about, hey, this cheaper is better, right? And here's the thing. I understand that a budget scope can work within its limitations. And for many people, they cannot tell the difference between that scope and a high dollar scope. And so maybe that does mean that for them, they don't have to spend money on a tier 1 scope. However, I believe that is rooted in the fact that they just don't know what they're looking at in terms of what do they really need out of that scope. And if all they need is something to blast steel, then a cheap scope is fine, in my opinion. But if you want to seriously like nitpick the image quality in tough conditions with mirage and whatnot, lighting conditions are changing, you're going to see that glass on that lower end scope falter. And so that's just my opinion, that I personally can tell the difference. I can see it as plain as day. Even a Collis, I can tell in certain lighting conditions has CA versus my Zicos. And so I'm not going to argue against that at a certain point, you know, the average person won't get much benefit out of a high dollar scope. But to say that an Arken EP5 is just as good as a Nightforce ATACR 735, that is just, I think that's just misconstrued, and it's kind of dangerous to spread around that it's just as good as a Nightforce. And where it gets really bad is in those comments of that video where people start to challenge that opinion from that quote unquote influencer. And then he goes on to say that Nightforce buys their scopes from Japan for $400. It's the same, you know, they're using the same glass, they're using Japanese glass for the Arken and the Nightforce. And Nightforce buys their scopes from Japan, $400, and resells them. That is like 100% like false. You can go online and go see factory tours of Nightforce in Oregon. It is true that at one time, Nightforce did have Japanese factories making their scopes, like in the early 2000s. And they shifted most of that scope manufacturing to the United States. It'll still say made in Japan. And the reason behind that is because that glass is provided by Japan. LOW is the most renowned glass maker for rifle scopes. It stands for, I believe it's Light Optical Works in Japan. And they're kind of like the big name in Japan versus like Schott Glass in Austria and Germany. And so LOW, they'll get their glass from LOW. I think Nightforce might get their bodies made in Japan, like the actual tubes. But Nightforce is going to assemble the entire scope in the United States, including, like, the key thing is the erector set, the erector mechanism, which is what's going to control your glass. And to say that they're buying these scopes from Japan for $400, that just doesn't make any sense in terms of like being truthful. Yes, they source the glass from Japan. They source the tubes from Japan. They bring it to the United States to reassemble everything, or they assemble everything. They set everything up. Erectors are built here. They get everything up in their factory. It is quality control, quality tested, and that's how they make a Nightforce scope. Arken scopes are made in China. They may get their glass from Japan, but who knows who they're getting the glass from? There's other glass providers in Japan. It's not just LOW. There's other ones out there. There's another one there's a 3-letter acronym for them. I think it's JOL. And they make good glass, but from what I understand, it's not in the same tier as LOW. But now Arken, on the other hand, is going to take that glass from Japan and they send it to its factory in China. And then they build a scope there. And you're not overseeing that quality control. I don't know if the Arken people send people down to the factory and do quality assurance tests at that factory. And it's not to say that China can't produce high quality stuff. They can. It's the question of whether they're not going to pay that factory to do that. That's the next question. And when you're selling a $500, $400 scope, I'm going to guess not, that you're not paying that factory in China to produce a tightly controlled, quality assured, quality controlled scope. Anyways, I'm kind of deviating here. I'm spending a long time talking about this. But anyway, that kind of video really irked me. I understand the mentality that people aren't going to spend money on high-end glass. I get that. And they can't justify the cost. I get that. But to say that a budget scope like the Arken is going to be fully comparable to Tier 1 glass, Nightforce, Collis, Zico, Schmidt & Bender, Tangent Theta, it's not truthful. It's far from it. So just wanted to mention that, but hey, I'm not going to, who am I to say, right? You can't, this guy has his platform. He's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I don't have that kind of platform, but my opinion is this: I feel that it's rooted in fact as far as the Nightforce factory. I know they're not buying full scopes from Japan for $400 and reselling them here. That's not how that works. And one last thing is, you got to keep in mind too, when people say, oh, use Japanese glass, there are different tiers of glass. There's different grades. You can buy like cheap glass from those manufacturers, and it might actually have lower, like their testing of that, or their what's the word I'm looking for? Their variance on that glass is going to be lower than their higher grade glasses, which is going to be graded. You know, they're using more tests to verify that those meet a specific strict standard. And so some scope manufacturers might buy glass from LOW, but it might be like lower tier on their availability, on their supply that they offer these OEMs. So I know that I'm pretty sure SHOT does that. They have like higher grades of glass that you can get, different coating, etc. And so that's kind of something else I'll need to think about when you're saying, oh, this has Japanese glass. Number one, what factory in Japan made that glass? Two, what tier is it? Like, is the scope manufacturer paying that glass factory for that high tier glass? So just throwing that out there. I just felt that, you know, I had to say something about that in my video. Anyway, let's keep shooting. I will say that this AW mag from Gray Ops seems to feed pretty well. Like I can feel it pick up off the top of the mag. Like it's a very reassuring feeling as far as I know that it fed. If that makes any sense. I have a feeling that one, I don't know, I have to check the chrono, but that one might have blown up. No, it went. Sorry. So the reason why I knew that one of my previous range sessions that a round blew up, I fired, and that group didn't have that hole that when I counted the holes, that wasn't there. When I rewatched my footage when I was cutting the video for the range vlog, I noticed that my chronograph data did not pick up that round. It like kind of flashed, and it returned the last round fired, so that it detected something, but then it didn't want to read anything because I don't think it made it that far. It just blew up in flight. So I did get 5 rounds recorded here, so I'll have to go check that paper to see if there's a 5th round. But if it is, it's tight. It's really tight. Anyway, that's 37.8. SD's pretty bad, 14.2, but we're averaging 30, 48. All right, let's take a look at the targets here so far. This is first round of the day with the 6.5 Creedmoor NRL Hunter build. Clean cold bore. The rest of the rounds went here. Next 5 rounds, same load as this. I did make an adjustment up, so I think I like where it's at, and I got to readjust my scope. I'm going to pull it right in one, and then we'll call that one as far as 42.0, 4350. Now here's the 22 GT. Sorry, I'm trying to get close here. I do count 5 here. That's sorry, I'm trying to watch my camera. And that's 5 rounds. That's 47. Sorry, what did I say? 37.5, 4831 shortcut. Here is 5 rounds, really tight, and that's 37.8. Also 37.8. I did make an adjustment here, so I came down here and came up 1. So sorry, first shot came down 0.2 mils, came back up 0.1. So 0.1 should be fine, assuming we stay at that load. But let's double check the back side to make sure that we have holes here. So this looks really suspect here. Like I'm seeing it's hard to tell if I'm seeing 5 holes.
on the backside. But it looks like we have, this is a double here, that's one, so that looks like 5. This one is really tight, and I'm not entirely sure if that's 4 and 1, so I might have to take it on faith. The chronograph did see them, so we're not blowing up rounds, because that is a very tight twist, and we're moving pretty fast, and we're over 300,000 RPMs, which is kind of the threshold for bullets. Like this de facto threshold that we've come up with on the internet.
I fired kind of a known load with my NRL Hunter build with 6.5 Creedmoor. It's just lowered by 0.2 of a grain. But this is brand new ammo that I'm going to test here. And this is with Vihtavouri N555 or 555 or 555, however you want to say it. Now, this is kind of a newer powder, I think, relatively new. It is supposedly Vihtavouri's answer to like temperature sensitive, insensitive powders for kind of this burn rate. And this is going to be suitable for Creedmoor. I've loaded already close to max, so you don't really want to do this, but I don't recommend this, but that's what I'm doing. I'm running 43 grains right now with 10 rounds. I just loaded up with 555. We're going to go ahead and try this out and see what it looks like as far as on paper and on the chronograph. I got 4 pounds of it. Got it because, hey, I said I wanted to try this out. I've never shot Vihtavouri powders. So it's always been expensive back in the day. I know a lot of guys use M140 for service rifle with the 77 grain and 80 grain bullets and AR. I used Alliant Reloader 15, which was cheaper, but now Alliant's more expensive. So it's kind of leveled off now. And so Vihtavouri is kind of an option in terms of cost. So we'll see. Kind of interested to see how it works. Oh, I threw that one low. 10 rounds. Average at 26.65 with a standard deviation of 5, extreme spread of 18. But I want to go take a look at it because it looks good from the scope. So let's take a look at it on paper.
Well, here's that 10-shot aggregate group with N555. This is Vihtavouri N555, 6.5 Creedmoor, Burger 144s, Federal Gold Medal Match primers, Alpha brass once fired. I believe I said 43 grains. I think that's what I said. But that's really good. I threw this round here. I knew for sure. But that's a really nice sub-MOA group. We're talking maybe 3/4 MOA at the worst. And not bad. I believe our 4350 is shooting a little tighter. This one was with an adjustment though. So 1 and it came up 1/10 of a mil. So that's not bad. 10-shot aggregate, just cold, blind. I guess just trying out 43 grains. I may bump it up because I think the average is like 2660, 2650. So maybe a couple tenths of a grain, 3/10 of a grain to get a little bit extra velocity. And maybe we can get this to close up a little bit, but just no real load development, just throwing in some powder in there and then hoping for the best. Not bad with a 10-shot aggregate.
That's it for this range vlog. It's a pretty low-key vlog. Again, just testing out loads, testing out primers, testing out powder, and then fine-tuning this zero, which I need to move the turrets there for that one and set the zero stop on my Zico. But all in all, good morning, even though it's a little bit smoky. You can kind of smell it in the air. As far as this magazine is concerned, this Gray Ops 6 GT AW mag, which I'm using for 22 GT, Works. It's pretty cool. I mean, I think it feeds pretty well. I'm looking at it. I probably should have taken photos before I kind of got it all worn in here, but I'm gonna take some photos of it when I get home. You can kind of tell on how they shorten up the back end for the 6GT, so it picks up a little bit later and doesn't slide all the way back into the mag. So I can see where they're going with this, and I think it does help a little bit. It does feel smooth on the chambering. I do like the feel of it, at least from the bolt operation. Unfortunate that I wish they did make 2 bodies though. I can see why, for a production standpoint, why they only made 1 body for 12 and 10 rounders, but it would have been nice to have it small. But I get it. Like, why make another mag body, increase your production costs just for, states where they have magazine capacity limitations. So all in all, I do like this so far. Just playing around with this magazine from Grey Ops. So really cool. Check it out. Grey Ops, not sponsored or anything. I bought it straight up. I just saw it. I got an email alert about it and I said, hey, 6GT mag, I'm gonna try it out. So I bought one. That's kind of it. You see this Stone Glacier harness. I don't know if I mentioned it. I've had this for a few months now. This came out recently. Haven't had time to do a review of it, but this is the vinyl harness I'm going to run. I have my EL range, which barely fits in it with the headrest, but this is kind of cool. You can already see where we're going with this as far as the vinyl harness. It is a lighter weight harness, just to let you know, a little teaser. It weighs less than my marsupial gear, and but it's not as padded, so that does tell you why how they shaved weight. Although the weight, I didn't, like, you got to factor in these side pockets. Like, I added these on, but we'll get into this in a future vlog and an article. I just haven't had time to do a proper kind of session to record something on this vinyl harness, but I do like it. It's really cool, and I'm going to run this for NRL Hunter in the upcoming season next year in 2025. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wind down this vlog. I'm going to go down to one of the shooting bays because I need to sight in or re-zero my Glock 26 because the battery died on my RMR, and so I took the RMR off yesterday, put a new battery in, and so I just got to go verify zero and tweak it, because when you take off that optic, it might not be, zeroed anymore. So we're going to go zero that. It should only take me about 10 rounds or so just to make sure that everything's good. Anyway, that's it for today, September 10th, here at the West End Gun Club. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vlog.